ACCA, the world's most forward-thinking professional accountancy body.
Welcome everyone to this episode of Careerwise, in which we'll be discussing MBAs, what they are, what they entail, when might be a good time to do it in your career, how to plan them, and perhaps a little bit about why you might want to decide to do one. In the discussion, I'm going to be joined by Owan O'Sullivan, who's from Trinity Business School, and Siobhan Blackwell, FCCA and MBA. I'll hand over to them to introduce themselves. Siobhan, if you'd like to say hello.
Thank you, Neil. I'm delighted to be here today. I am a director and I'm head of business regulatory and supervisory management at TD Securities in Dublin. I completed my MBA and graduated with the class of 2021. I did the 2-year part-time MBA at Trinity Business School. And as you alluded to, my FCCA qualification, I am an accountant by background, but fun fact, I actually changed career. I no longer work in the finance function. I'm currently managing a trading floor. So I'm the business manager for the global markets trading business in TD Securities in Dublin.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and over to you, Owen.
Yeah, thanks, Neil, for inviting us to take part. Owan O'Sullivan is my name. I work as the MBA recruitment manager in the business school here in Trinity. So I oversee basically the recruitment of all 3 of our MBA programs. It's our 1-year full-time program, our 2-year part-time, which is our executive MBA, and most recently our flexible MBA program, which is our 2-year part-time online program. So I'd oversee admissions, as I said, across all 3 of those intakes.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for joining us this week. It's going to be a nice little discussion because it is an interesting topic. I think especially people who've done ACCA quite often, maybe not all the time, but they want to continue education. It's something that is important to them. And quite often you see that MBAs become part of that career plan. But I think I'd want to start with you, Owen. Briefly, what is an MBA?
Good question. It's really the first question asked of us, when speaking to candidates, and it's really to help them determine if it is a requirement for their own kind of upskilling or professional and personal development. And really, at its core, an MBA program is a management training program. Originally designed back in the 60s, primarily for those coming from a technical background, really with no formal business or perhaps management qualifications. And, invariably as a person, I suppose, progresses in their career, they may move away from that technical role or functional specialist type position into much more of a general management role. And that's really where the MBA fits in. It's a very broad-based kind of holistic overview of all areas of business from a senior management perspective. And a lot of it is really to teach those students, I suppose, how to lead more successfully, more efficiently, more effectively going forward, and also to introduce them, obviously, to the latest concepts and theories and frameworks around strategic management and leadership.
Yeah. Siobhan, as someone who's done one, looking back, does that all marry up as in what you took from it?
It definitely resonates with me, Neil. Just to pick up on a specific point that Owen made there, when I was looking at undertaking a master's degree, at that point I was a qualified and seasoned accountant. I had my ACCA qualification well behind me, but I was looking to add another degree to the portfolio. And I did consider more specialized programs, and there's plenty on the market in Ireland. However, I was really attracted to that broader suite that the MBA offered, and candidly, I had observed in the job market that certain C-suite roles specified a qualification experience for applicants with an MBA, and that indirect marketing also lured me in.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that makes a lot of sense as well. Owen, you mentioned it was designed with technical people in mind. So you've got that background in a technical aspect in a profession. But moving over into, like you were saying, Siobhan, into the C-suite, perhaps you might need some help. You might need some more education and the experience that comes with doing an MBA. If I'm early in my career and I do have high-flying ambitions to get to the C-suite, is it something definitely worth considering then, sort of to factor in at some point?
Yeah, look, it's not unusual, I suppose, for candidates or students at a relatively early age or early stage in their career, I should say, to contemplate doing an MBA, especially if they're looking to maybe move into management. It's also, I suppose, slightly more common for those that might already be in perhaps a junior or even middle management role and might be looking to perhaps fast track their career into much more senior positions. And then at the top end, I suppose, again, we would attract quite senior professionals that would already be in very senior roles, but again, maybe no formal management training or qualification behind them. And they might be in turn targeting C-suite roles, directorship type positions, or indeed looking to start their own business. which again is not uncommon. But certainly those maybe in their maybe 5 to 10 years of professional experience would be most likely, I suppose, to undertake something like our full-time MBA program. The 2-year part-time executive MBA has a slightly older demographic or more experienced demographic. The average number of years experience across the executive MBA would be somewhere around maybe 14 or possibly 15. But yes, it would certainly serve the purpose of helping an early stage kind of career development for somebody maybe 5, as I said, to 10 years of work experience under their belt.
That makes complete sense. I wrote an article recently about MBAs, talking to people who've done them all over the place, and it's to try and ascertain when is a good time to do it. And I guess there's no hard and fast rule, as you were saying, like 5 years, maybe sort of when you've got a bit of experience under your belt. But when you're looking at where you are in your life, how much capacity do you need to be able to take this on? That's probably quite an important thing, I imagine. And looking at perhaps, let's say if you have a family, or if you don't yet have a family, is it trying to fit it into your life as well as your career? Because I do hear a lot about how it's a full on. It's something that it requires a lot of you.
Yeah, 100%. I might refer this question to Siobhan. She'll attest it much better than I can. Obviously, come through our part-time or executive MBA program. But yeah, timing is crucial, Neil. There's never, I suppose, an ideal time to take on an MBA. It's very time-consuming. There's a huge commitment involved. And those looking to do the part-time program in particular that are working full-time, most of which will have young families, given the demographic. These individuals are obviously time poor. So understanding, I suppose, the demands of the program well ahead of even applying or even enrolling in the program is certainly something that's extremely important. But maybe Siobhan obviously would give you further insight on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think with an MBA program, there's a sweet spot in terms of that timing. And what that comes down to, and what I mean by that is, when one comes out of formal education and they're starting out in their career, learning is about textbooks, primarily learning material, maybe even rope learning it to get through the formalities of exams. And that's the biggest feature to an ACCA qualification. And then the experience follows. With an MBA, it's a more immersive experience. Sure, there's some materials to read and learn along the way, but the real learning is in the application of key concepts to real world business issues through the mechanism of diverse teamwork. So say an individual comes into the program, they have 5 years behind them. They're going to bring 5 years of issues with them. And what I mean by issues is they'll have dilemmas in terms of like, how am I struggling to navigate this in the workplace? And why do I always find that when it comes to deadlines, a project can fall apart in the workplace? And an MBA, I found, gave me answers to some of those questions because everyone else on the program came with the same questions and issues. But what's really unique is our peers, and I'm going to assume here that most MBA programs are similar, most class intakes are similar in that diversity. So a class will be composed of individuals from different cultural backgrounds, but what overrides that is the professional work experience diversity. So in our program, there were individuals from the pharma sector, there was a politician, there was someone in the robotics industry. There was a preconception that it's all business people. It's really not, and that's what makes it so beautiful. So if you take that cohort and each individual has, say, 5 to 10 years behind them, they're bringing with them professional work experience. Everyone has to up their game, right? So that levels the playing field. But inherently, as you approach your mid to late 30s, one is going to be married potentially, maybe you've started a family, maybe not. One might be moving house, changing jobs, changing careers. All of that is more commonplace in terms of real life events in that age bracket. I actually think it's part of the program to, in the real world, in business, one might be moving into a new opportunity or have a project to remediate that might be quite tricky. And they might be moving house on the side as well. So it is actually real world application, even in that sense. But if one doesn't have a certain amount of professional work experience behind them, I don't think one would get the same out of the program for those reasons. You're bringing into it a level of expertise. I suppose it creates equity in the classroom because everyone has that base level of experience. And it also adds to the diversity school of thought that's brought into the classroom that really enriches the application of the learnings applying those to projects and, real world business simulation.
Yeah. So it happens at the sweet spot. It might come in at a time in life when other things naturally will be occurring. So as opposed to trying to overplan it or believe that there is the perfect time to do anything, which is never the case for anything. Focus on whereabouts you are in your career. If you feel like you have enough behind you, and to be aware of the fact that you're going to be joining a cohort of people who come from, like you said, different diverse backgrounds, you need to be able to feel equal to them. And I imagine confidence is a big part, because if you lose your confidence, by the very nature of entering a program and feeling like you're not quite there yet, you shouldn't be here, that you're off on a bad foot already then, aren't you, I suppose? And you probably want to hit the ground running and actually feel confident within yourself that you should be there.
Yeah, like speaking of life events, when I actually started my MBA, I didn't have a job. I lost my job at my last organization. So I felt really out of place that first evening in a room, and everyone's introducing themselves and all these companies and big positions that they're in. I'm like, I am unemployed. But my peers rallied around me, and sure enough, within 6 weeks, my plans played out. I had this amazing opportunity at TD Securities, and it all worked itself out. And another fun story is one of my close friends from the MBA started on one maternity leave, and she finished on a different maternity leave. She had another baby during the program. So the life, a year or 2 years, whichever route one chooses to take on an MBA program, is long enough for life events to occur.
Yeah, that's so true. And this is one for Owen. Is there a lot of support on these programs if you need a bit of time off, or if you need financial assistance? Can you get some sort of help?
Yeah, 100%. So, look, I suppose firstly, there's a lot of pastoral care in the program itself. Those doing the executive MBA, there's a lot going on, outside of their MBA, and as well for those doing the full-time program. Nearly 90% of our full-time MBA students are international students, so they're relocating here to Dublin. They're in a brand new country. They've stepped away from their career to do an MBA program, which is a huge decision, obviously, to be making. So there's pastoral care on the program. We would run scholarships, obviously, for those applying and looking to get on the program as well. And really, it kind of goes back to Siobhan's point of really deriving value from the program. And if you're at a stage in your career where you've built up significant work experience but now need maybe something to help you make that next step, or even a career pivot, for example, then the MBA might be a good fit or may not. And that's something that we help explore with the candidates, before they commit to anything or even apply for the program itself. It's just given the sheer scale of the decision that they're making, the investment, both financially and time commitment, that it's not something, I suppose, that's taken lightly. And if somebody does choose to apply to our program, is very interested in our program specifically, then it's maybe working with them to understand, where they want to go with the program post-graduation. And again, if it's something, for example, our career service and advisory service can play a big part in, it can help them, then obviously we'd be happy to see them come on the program. But, if somebody is perhaps looking to move into an industry that may not have a footprint here in Ireland, for example, then we'd advise them not to come here. So it's really about ensuring that this is a symbiotic relationship. The student themselves, have a huge part to play on the program, as Siobhan mentions there. Peer learning is a hugely important component of an MBA program, and really it's just about getting the right mix of different nationalities and backgrounds and levels of experience inside in a class that are really happy that they've made this decision, are highly motivated to push on through the MBA program. But yes, certainly the supports both on the program and financial supports by way of scholarships for those looking to consider doing the program.
I like the idea of pre-support as well, being honest with them about whether it's the right choice to come to Trinity, for example. I imagine that would be welcome if I was a candidate, having that kind of honesty, for sure.
Yeah, look, it's hugely important in that the core components of MBAs can be very similar across the board, but there can be quite big differences in types of MBAs and different specializations across MBAs. So, for example, in our MBA, it's a very broad-based general management program, and there's a huge emphasis on project and applied learning, and that may or may not suit an individual. So if somebody needed an MBA with a specialization, then we might be advising them not to do our program, for example.
I like to come back to when I've spoken to ACA members that have done MBAs, they're very proud of the fact that they've done it and they've completed it, and they still seem to be quite close to the people they did it with. So beyond just networking, it seems to be something that that you kind of almost like friendships for life, or you make comrades for life as well. It sounds like there's a real sense of understanding each other's achievement. Is that something, I guess, Siobhan, it's probably best to ask, is that something that you take away from it?
100%. There's a sharing experience of having gone through this immersive experience, the hell that it can be at times, because there's peaks and troughs to the time commitment, but boy, when it's on, it's on. And you're on the phone at all hours to each other trying to, perfect a slide or talk about speaking notes. And it helps to develop friendships, or maybe not if it doesn't work out. But some of my best friends are from that MBA. And when there are events on at Trinity or just because, we all get together. And then within all of us getting together, there's a number of different sets of very close friends. On my side, I am chair of the Ireland Online Giving Foundation, and there's multiple board members, but 2 of the other board members are actually from my MBA class. So we work together in that capacity now, which is so lovely, and they're close friends, and we have a mini network going on the side through the Online Giving Foundation as well, which is fantastic. I really learned to value true friendships through collaboration, through the MBA. There's so many unexpected learnings one gets from an MBA program. And at the end of the day, you end up with a degree that's, a size A4, A3 piece of paper. Maybe it's somewhere in between the two. It's a funny size, the parchment is. But the friendships are always there. The WhatsApp group is always going. It's still as alive today, that WhatsApp group, as it was when we started in 2019. So yeah, definitely value those friendships and that network. And the network comes in very handy when it comes to people looking for a new job, looking to hire somebody, doing a fitness challenge, for donations. There were 3 classmates that did a Dublin Marathon last October for different causes, so it's giving back to the community. There's 5 of us that did a Great Dublin Bike Ride a couple of years ago as well for the Hope Foundation. So myself and a few of my peers organized that as well. Actually we might have had 7 or 8 people cycling in that. So that raises quite a bit for the community as well. But it's that network and that friendship that people are like, yeah, of course I'd love to do that. Let's get together and do it, make it happen.
Yeah, that sounds very neat, because I think it's nice to focus on that a little bit, especially towards the end of our conversation, because I imagine people don't focus on that part, and that's probably one of the most appealing aspects, actually, is what you get from it in that sense, the people that you meet. And my final question is, and it is to you, Siobhan, as well, is that from doing this, you definitely move on afterwards, and it's been useful. You're taking learnings from it and put them into real life settings, and it was definitely a good thing to do.
It's been a benefit for sure, but unexpected benefits, I think, is the key part. So what I would say there is, when one comes into an MBA, and I heard this around the room, that first night we're all together, why are you doing an MBA? The answer would be, I want to move to a particular level in my organization. Well, I want to change career. Well, I'm coming to retirement and I don't know what I want to do next, right? Like, the answers were wide and far. On a personal level, I wanted to do an MBA because my dad did one, and it was a bonding experience because he was on the road constantly when I was growing up. But during the time he was doing his MBA, we had the opportunity to spend more time together. And I didn't have that time with him otherwise. So it stuck with me. But what I would say for those coming into an MBA looking for, there's a lot of marketing around, 90% of our graduates are on, X amount within a certain period, or to have a particular fixation on a particular role or a particular career move. It's a journey. You're going to come out of that journey with such an unexpected outcome to what you may have gone in with. And I would probably leave that as a thought for those listening in. And to give a couple of examples, there was an individual who was a dentist, and the individual was looking to extend his practice. The individual does not work in dentistry anymore at all. In fact, as I recall, I went on to do further study, went down the political avenue, and it may have changed again. There's a few other examples where at the end of that journey, dramatic change occurred because of the learnings and the self-reflection that comes along with an MBA. And I think that the immersive nature of it really brings that to the fore. And one doesn't expect that going in day one, but you have to go through it to experience it and to really feel that.
And that makes a lot of sense. I think anything that intense is probably going to throw up some unexpected findings. That's all the questions I had. I don't know if you wanted to say anything in the end, though.
No, it was a huge thanks, obviously, Neil and Siobhan. And I think with Siobhan's kind of point at the end is really very, very important. I suppose the students coming on the program, have their own, I suppose, motivation and rationale for doing the program, but come onto the program with an open mind. You get exposure to a lot of different industries, a lot of different fellow students and faculty from different walks of life, and a lot of people don't know obviously what they don't know. So it is an opportunity maybe to self-reflect and maybe explore different career paths that you may not have considered previously. And it is a kind of a safe learning and training environment as well. Our program in particular is very heavily project focused, as I mentioned. So it is an opportunity maybe to kind of explore different skill sets or different goals or opportunities that you may not have the time or even the means to do in the past. So, take full advantage of all that will be on offer in an MBA. You're going to be investing very heavily, both financially and through time commitment in doing so. So it's about maybe getting as much value from that experience as possible.
For sure. Yeah, perfect. That's a lovely place to end it on. I'd like to thank you both very much for taking the time to speak today. It's really interesting. I think it's a nice topic to talk about a lot, considering how many people I've spoken to have done it and what they've genuinely taken away from doing an MBA. So thank you for your insights. It's a pleasure to speak with you both. Take care.
Thank you, Neil.
Thanks for having us, Neil. Thank you.
No problem. Bye-bye.
For more career advice, check out the ACCA Careers website and the Student Accountant app. And if you have something in particular you'd like me to cover in the series, get in touch at studentaccountant@acccaglobal.com.
This podcast was brought to you by ACCA. Find out how we think ahead at acccaglobal.com.